Hello guys, Dejamu here, and welcome to another video on Horus, Heresy Allegiance. Today, I will be playing with Perturabo. This deck was originally intended to just be, maximum DPR, damage per round, but it ended up being so good. I got a 10-to-1 victory to loss ratio. Sanguinius, Avatar, Raldoron, Kyrus, 2 times the Kona Shuriken, 1 time Raum, Amon, Machian, Lehman Russ, Ferrus Manus, and then in the end I lost to a fully maxed out Conrad Kurtz. So here's the deck. It is Perturabo, who has his Whispers of Chaos, which don't play a big role in this deck. Then for 2 energy, he can set up, siege, deal 6 damage. And another very important part is his low initiative. Because he starts second, or because he goes second, he has his counterattack, which deals 1 damage to all units, which can be very useful in removing troops. Then we have 2 times Drilling Sight if we need to squeeze his siege in a few times. If we spend all our energy, we still need to squeeze the siege in, we can use Drilling Sight. Command Bridge to get some of these very important tactics over here. And then you see you have 27 tactics and 3 troops. We have 1 Void Engagement. I would like to put 2 in here instead of 2 Lectitio, but sadly I only own 1 copy of Void Engagement. 2 times Lectitio Divinitatis, 2 times Superior Firepower, 2 times Seek and Destroy, 2 times Wonders of Tizca. I mainly use it for removing stun because with his 40 health, Perturabo doesn't really need much healing. 1 time Bastard Melgator. He's very useful, and especially if you really want to focus on the enemy warlord, but there's this annoying troop that keeps on hitting you, you can just bounce back with Ambassador Melgator. 2 times Abandoned Supplies, 1 time Precision Bombardment. I would like to have 2 copies inside, but I only own 1 copy. 2 times Goldstone Hunters, 2 times Artillery Strike, 1 time Contrador, which is one of the key parts of this deck. I win with it so many times. 1 time Perturabo's Wrath. I do not recommend putting 2 copies in, because it's a very specific use, but it has its uses. 2 times Draken Ruin, 2 times Viral Bombs, 2 times Defense Satellites, which, I don't know, if you find a better option or better card to replace Defense Satellites with, just do it, because Defense Satellites are okay. 1 time Planetary Purge, and 1 time Forge Breaker. Forge Breaker is not, it doesn't need to be in this deck to make it work. I just think it does more DPR. Instead of doing 6 damage every 2 rounds, you do 8 damage every 2 rounds. So, do whatever you want with Forge Breaker. So, let's have a look at the matches. The first one is a practice match in practice mode against Sanguinius, because I wasn't sure how this deck would play out. But after I beat Sanguinius, I was so confident. I really like this opening hand. You don't really need any cheap cards for the beginning, because you're just going to be using his ability for the first few turns. Let me turn on the volume.
Take the iron within!
We fly on righteous wings.
Oh no, he revealed my Rack and Ruin. It's the end of the world. So, I save my Void Engagement for next turn, so next turn I can use my ability and Void Engagement. I don't really want to kill that thing, I just want to remove its drop pod. So I draw a card, Superior Firepower, okay. And Abandoned Supplies. I'm trying to find ways to remove that drop pod without me needing to use the warlord. But in the end, I had to use it. I did not use the Seek and Destroy, because I'm fine with taking that 5 damage. And the next turn, if he plays another card, I can use my counterattack. But he didn't place another card. He wasted 4 energy. So in the end, I think, use the counterattack to just remove that single troop. Yes. Breaker Squad and Harem Squad, so it's a nice little combo of 7 damage. It's not a bad combo, it just leaves you with nothing on the board, no strong board state, so I can I can wipe it pretty easily and start dealing direct damage with Warlord. I use Superior Firepower instead of Seek and Destroy, because Seek and Destroy can be used on anything, while Superior Firepower is limited to troops with 3 attack or less, and I do have 2 Superior Firepowers. And he reveals my second Superior Firepower, which doesn't matter, because I'm going to use it anyway. And I occasionally have 2 extra energy just lying around, and that's a good time to play Wonders of Tisca. Especially if you know that your opponent will not be stunning you. I don't really care about that too much. He's gonna hit me once, pretty much no matter what. So I'm just gonna let it hit me once, and then deal with it a Goldstone or a Seek and Destroy. I have more than enough health to tank it. So I'm just gonna start pumping damage into him. And he places another one. As you can see, he's trying to get his whispers off. I mean, it's a whispers? No, it's a reckoning. He's trying to get reckoning off by killing as many infantry and the Astartes troops as he can. So I removed the Seek and Destroy to remove that troop, and I just continue pumping damage to him. Oh, I win. Right, yeah, I use the drilling site to play Contrador, and then I win. Yeah. So after I did this, I realized, wow, I beat a hardcore Sanguinius with 21 health remaining. I think I can use the ladder. So I went ahead and took him to the ladder. At this stage, I was still low in Mars, because I hadn't been doing well with... I had a below 50% win rate with all the rest of my decks. So the first ladder game was against a Sevatar. Now, Sevatar is usually a pretty tough opponent to face. And I put 2 Superior Firepowers in because there are some pretty annoying Night Lords cards. I would know as a Night Lords player myself.
Within. Death to the false emperor.
Now, I was pretty worried when I started the matchup because he does have 3 attack, and I don't have any, or barely have any troops, so he will probably be a 3 attack for the entire game. But he did what? He did 6 damage, and I took 4 damage himself, and I just did 6 damage over 2 turns. So over 2 turns, he takes 10 damage, and I take 6. I take 6. So
Time to pay for my sins.
He saw no way that he could win that. Now, the next game is against Kyrus. And Perturabo does have a much easier time. This deck has a much easier time dealing with 30 health Warlords than it does against 40 health Primarchs.
I am King Queen of Cygnus, enemy of all life.
Now, I had no direct way to deal with that Warp Rift. So, and I didn't want it getting its Relentless ability off, so I just tossed it away. Maybe, yeah, that's a bit of a waste, but I did not want him to reduce the cost of his demons. I don't understand why he attacked that with Kyrus, because all he's doing is taking 1 extra damage himself. Now he does the ultimate play of 2 Warp Rifts, but I have Artillery Strike and my counterattack, which is a total of 3 damage to all units, or to all enemy units, so... And he's already down to 20 health. So, I'm already getting to the point where I say to myself, I've won the game. Because with this deck, once your opponent is below the 20 health mark, and you're still above 25, you pretty much can also win. Because the amount of damage per round that Perturabo can bring out is so big. Next game is against Nakona Shiroken. I was relatively happy with this starting hand. The Abandoned Supplies. Abandoned Supplies is always great. I don't know why I replaced the Viral Bombs. I do agree with replacing the Defense Satellites, but I have no clue why I replaced the Viral Bombs. Those would be very useful.
Take the iron within. It gives me no pleasure to do this.
Now that is another that is one huge mistake that he's doing. He's face bashing Perturabo with Nakona Shuriken. I mean, depends what deck he has. If he has that new fancy deck where you just have a bunch of fast rally, the one that like Kazarin or someone made a video on, then I agree with his choice, but he did not have that deck. Now a really fun thing I like doing with Nakona Shuriken and when I'm using Perturabo is whenever he activates his siege ability, I activate mine. So whenever he uses his siege ability, I use mine, and then we're synced in a way that I will always deal damage to him, and we will both do nothing to each other in one turn. Now he places the Numa squad, and I have a very clear counter to all of this, which is Artillery Strike, but instead I use Viral Bombs because I want to deal as much damage around. Now that was slightly more irritating to deal with. My plan was to Artillery Strike it, and then next turn use Artillery Strike again, maybe deal damage to another card he'll place, and then use my counterattack to finish it off. But in the end, he did get 4 extra damage off with it, so that was one pretty annoying movement. I was slightly worried about this game at this point because we've had similar health pools and we were both below 20. So, but I did have a reduced cost Conquistador, so I shot him and then I couldn't have won. Now the mistake that both Nakona Shurikens made, like both battles I played, they didn't assume that I had Conquistador. That is why
It's time for decimation.
I'm for decimation, because plop, and I have so many alternatives. I can Wreck and Ruin him, Defense Satellite him, Golden Hunter him, Face Bash him, and I can do that. But both Nakona Shurikens assume that I don't have Conquistador. That is why I like to keep my statement: hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. That is one hell of a statement to live by. Next game is against the second Nakona Shuriken. It's very similar to the first one. I don't think I need to show it. Next one is against Ground. After how easily I dealt with Sevatar, I mean, he gave up, but I was pretty confident that I could win this, especially because Ram also only had 30 health. I like the starting hand. I do like to keep one of the Tizgun in my hand when I have a higher damage dealing opponent, so that I can do some emergency healing. No, I don't really care about that. Maybe I should have, because I keep forgetting that Realm is Wordbearers, and Wordbearers recently got a lot of buffs and now are very heavy infantry dependent, and so maybe I should have. If he had a better Wordbearers deck, that might have been a bit of a problem. But it's for these types of situations that I have my counterattack. I think my favorite counterattack out of all counterattacks is this one, because it helps you so much. Unlike the Death Guard one, which just gives you, which heals your Warlord by 2. It's not even heal a unit by 2, just heals your Warlord by 2. I definitely prefer the counterattacks that have different effects over time. Like if you give your Warlord shield and you face bash it into a 2 damage troop with shield, it denies 2 damage. But if you use shield and attack like a 7-1 troop, you stop 7 damage from coming towards you. But that's a counterattack that's dependent on the moment that you use it. But then there's ones like the Death Guard one, which just heal to your Warlord. So no matter when you use it, it will always have the same effect. Now we are both at 17 health, and I had the same feeling, like the uneasy feeling that I had when I played that Nakona Shuriken game. But I was pretty confident that I would win. I had all these anti-troop, I had viral bombs, I had Contrador. Everything was okay. It just, after you drop under 20 health with Perturabo, you need to watch out a bit. Now there's probably nothing to do at this point. There's no way he could avoid getting hit by this Contrador and dying. Maybe you shouldn't have face bashed, but
It's time for decimation.
For every single, or almost every single one of the 10 games that I won, I was that end line. And all these games lasted, 3 or 4 minutes? So I kept on hearing, it's time for decimation, it's time for decimation. It was so fun. Now we're getting to the more interesting game, Custodes. Now this guy had a very interesting deck. He was clearly going for... Why did I replace Rack and Ruin? That might have not been the smartest choice, because Custodes do have a lot of powerful vehicles.
Take the iron within.
This guy was clearly
Do
going
you
for
think you can get through me?
trying to get to the really expensive Custodes troops as fast as possible, because he had two asteroid belts. So he was getting a lot more energy than me. But the reason he loses the game is because he didn't have enough card draw. He just wasn't drawing enough cards, and he had too much Sentinel. So in the end, he had no cards in his hand, and I just kept shooting him every round. There's the second asteroid belt. Bit of a waste there. He wasted that first 2 energy turn, and he wasted this turn. So I don't know. That was a bit of a powerful move right there, because I have no direct way of dealing with that. I mean, without sacrificing my 6 damage into the Warlord. In the end, I choose to go with Planetary Purge. I made a mistake. I thought killing him like that would doing 4 damage to him then would activate the Planetary Purge ability, but it didn't, because he didn't die. So my plan didn't go perfectly. I took 6 damage in the end anyway. Now, my plan for this turn was to leave him alive. Never mind. Wrong turn. I did not want that alive. But now he is below 20 health, so I felt a bit more comfortable. Now my plan was to keep this one alive, so that he wouldn't draw any cards for 1 turn, and then when he attacked me, I would Chili Strike him, or I don't know, do something else to him. So I played Forgebreaker, but he had more Tori's Wrath, so I ended up taking 9 damage instead of the planned 6, which put me in a bit of a panic. But now I saw a very beautiful chance to use double artillery strike. To deal 4 damage to all units. Now, this would have been a good time to have drilling sight on me, but sadly I didn't. And he had Apotheosis, which I think is a very weird card to have in this deck. Maybe it fits with his first strike, but otherwise, it's a bit odd. But I was really worried at this point because I had no real direct damage ways besides his ability and this one single Rack and Ruin. So I started hitting him. If he had a too fast or just a too fast vehicles, or maybe 2 or 3 Goldstone Hunters, I would have been dead. But lucky for me, he didn't, and he was not very intelligent. He was not very intelligent and decided to face bash me. So I killed him.
It's time for decimation.
That is now my favorite line in all games. So that was my game against Custodes. Next, now it really gets interesting. Leman Russ. This game was pretty close. I think Leman Russ is a pretty powerful warlord, and because a lot of Space Wolves have ward, I can't really use my tactic spam on them. So I was pretty happy with this hand. I wanted to keep the Goldstone Hunters because anti-ward.
Take the iron within.
And Artillery Strike was also
I am
anti-ward.
the Emperor's executioner.
And I kept Precision Bombardment for all those turn 1 or 2, like turn 1 or 2, 3 health troops. So I started off pretty powerful with a 6 health lead. But then he places a very irritating card. I didn't want to respond with Goldstone Hunters because I wanted to charge up my ability. Because in this matchup, I really need to be dealing as much damage as possible to Leman Russ. I decided to take Rack and Ruin because Perturabo's Wrath really only helps when I have Forge Breaker active and I have 9 energy, and I didn't really expect that to last that long. Now that's Forever 2 really annoyed me. That was very irritating. Now I just continued to ignore this troop and damaging him. Oh no, never mind. I didn't want him to deal more damage to me, so I took it out. But he places another one. Now I think an option would have been just playing Planetary Purge and hoping for a nice board wipe. But this also worked. In this way I'll set draw an extra card. Which were Viral Bombs, which are very, very, very useful. And then in addition to that, he gets Dionysian Spear as well, so he starts stunning me, which is extremely irritating. This is where Wonders of Tiska come in very helpful. Come very handy. Now I definitely had enough damage in my hand to kill him. The problem was that ward. So I removed that troop because otherwise I probably would have died next turn. So, 2 turns. 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 2 tur Basically, I use that one Tizka for no reason at all. And he stuns me again. But I win here, because I can use Conjurador, I can counterattack, do that extra 1 damage, heal my Warlord, and face bash him for 2. And that's how I won against Leland Russ with the Dionysian Spear. That. Although I did, this is a really close game, and I can say it's time for decimation, because I really only want to use that when I really completely obliterate my opponent. And now it's Terra's Menace. This one wasn't as close as the Lehman Russ game, but I still thought it was pretty close. I replaced
your hammer.
Wreck and Ruin.
Save your breath and fight, traitor.
I replaced the Wreck and Ruin because Terra's Menace is more of a infantry and Astartes heavy guy rather than vehicle heavy. I didn't really like that Acrotrez, but I couldn't really do anything about it, so I ignored it. That's a rule I like to do is live by as well in Horus Heresy Legion. If you can't do anything about it, ignore it. Because you keep thinking about it like, I can't do anything about it, you just get more frustrated. Now, the good thing about the Warlock Squad is that it's a front line troop, so he will not attack with it, he will not want it to die. So he will keep buffing it and not attacking with it. So my idea was to let him keep buffing it until he was 4 attack, then bounce it back with Melgator, and then I will have countered a good 8 energy with just 2. And I pulled Forgebreaker at a very cheap cost, so I felt pretty good about this. Now I could play on the 7 energy turn, instead of just playing Forgebreaker, I could play Forgebreaker and use it once. Now was a good time to use Artillery Strike. It would also pressure him into buffing the Warlock Squad, because he wouldn't want it to die. Now, maybe it might have seemed a bit suspicious that I didn't face back this time as he died, but he still takes the bait. Now, at this point, I thought, easy win, because he had 23 health, and I only lost 1 health total from my counterattack. So now I play Forgebreaker and start my 4 DPR, my 4 damage per round. And Kiki and his amazing servo arm keeps going into the Orlov squad. Now, what I should have done here is... No, there's nothing I could have done. I thought, after I did this whole turn, I thought maybe Viral Bombs would have been a better option, but there was nothing I could have done about them. My plan was to wait neck for next turn so that he would face back the Rhino into my Warlord, and then I would use Viral Bomb. And once again, the heal goes to the Warlord. And then I'd use Viral Bombs and wipe his board, deal a lot of damage to him. Yeah, and it worked out perfectly. Now I get a very satisfying...
It's time for decimation.
Viral Bombs. I thought I would win this turn, that's why I said time for decimation. But sadly I didn't. If I had just had one more energy, I could have Goldstone huntered him. But I didn't, so. He heals his 2, and then he has enough energy for his Reckoning. But
All I see is betrayal.
doesn't really matter. Because with Perturbo's Wrath, if I used Perturbo's Wrath, I could have done 8 points of damage. But this way, I had enough energy exactly to kill him with Wreck and Ruin, Goldstone, and his ability. Now, so really all I'm doing for this win is the fact that Curse Menace's Reckoning gives him Berserk. And finally, let's against Conrad Kurtz. I think this Conrad Kurtz has gotten extremely lucky with his cards. You'll see why. I replaced one of the Tiska and got another one of the Tiska.
Welcome
That's
the
just my luck.
darkness.
So this is a very untypical Conrad Kurtz play, not using his ability to deal net 1 damage to me. So I just start hitting him. I once again realized I could do nothing about that, so I tried to pull something, but all I got was less than good in Mitatis, and I just ignored it. He plays Forge Complex, and attacks me as expected. Now, I thought I would have to use Planetary Purge, but I got lucky and pulled Seek and Destroy, so I managed to do that. And I didn't play that Electricity to Mitatis, because otherwise it would have been at 10 cards, and the next card I would have pulled would have been deleted. I didn't really know what to do about that, so I just Superior Firepowered it. And like I said, if your opponent likely doesn't have anything that can stun you, just use Wonders of Tiska to heal whenever you have 2 free energy, because it's a bit of a waste to just lose 2 energy. And he decides to use that free energy to deal 1 extra damage to me. At first I thought I would have to waste my Artillery Strike onto that, but in the end I got lucky again and pulled Persistent Bombardment. And like I said, when you have 2 extra energy, you don't want to do with it, just heal. So I thought I had this game in the bag, because, I mean, when I looked at the board I felt it, but then I saw that we were already on the 8 energy turn, and that he would be activating his Night Hunter in his Batman mode soon, entering Batman mode soon, so a bit worried there. Now my plan was to leave that alive, so that would be face bash me next turn. Then I could use Artillery Strike, or no, he'd face bash me next turn, and then he'd have... No, I did 3 damage to it, so next turn he would face bash me, have 4 health left, then I could use Planetary Purge and kill a few things. I did predict some Night Raptors, or not Night Raptors, what are they called? Recon Claws. And I was right, he played 2 Recon Claws. And he played Endroshek. Now the most optimal, I used the first counterattack to bring Endroshek down to 4 health. Now my preferred play would have been I use it on Vakuran, then it would hit Endroshek, then Recon Claw, then this Recon Claw, and then him. But sadly, you can't always get what you want. It's him Vakuran, then it hits Recon Claw, and then it hits him. Now I don't know why oh yeah, I use Artillery Strike. Maybe it would be better to just hit him with oh, I do it anyway, never mind. Yeah, I had my speedrun so I can be so useful sometimes. But now, sad times because he goes into Batman mode.
It's time for decimation.
Yeah, I said it's time for decimation because I had viral bombs, Perturbo's wrath, and everything, but I completely forgot that he had that. So I play my viral bombs. Deal a lot of damage to him. And once again I thought, oh, I have this game in the bag. But no, he has Apotheosis. Sorry if you hear any background noise, I just have my fan on. It's pretty hot here. So I play Forgebreaker, and I start doing more damage to him. And so I thought, I still have this game in the bag. Next turn, Contrador, and Forgebreaker. But no, he has another Apotheosis. Like, okay, this isn't too bad. I can still now use Perturbo's Wrath. Use Forgebreaker twice. And now I have this game in the bag. But guess what? There's more where that came from. He heals even more. Now I made a mistake here. Yeah, and Manifest Destiny as well. I made a mistake here. I used my viral bombs. I definitely should not have done that. Because it dealt so much damage to me that in the end I lost. So really I lost because I used viral bombs. So I deal with 4 damage with Breath Ruin. I use Drilling Sight. And then once again I thought, I win. But then I remembered that Night Lords have an 8 energy card called the Raven. And I lost. So this deck isn't unbeatable, but it's so good. Really, consider using it if you have these cards. You don't really need all the legendaries, you just need Contrador is very important. Ambassador Melgator you can do it without. Command Bridge is somewhat important. Just make sure key parts are Contrador, Command Bridge, Ambassador Melgator, and Forgebreaker are still pretty good, important, but you don't really need them. So, that was my video on this new, amazing, I mean, not new, but this really, really good, competitive Perturabo deck. Hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, yeah.